evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the first race of the 60th season. You heard that right. 20 years, 60 seasons here in Rolling Thunder Gaming as we kick off the new season of the Tally Challenge Series. This is going to be a good one as everybody is trying to stop that hot number 88 of Grant Wesley. 3 championships in the last 4 seasons. The defending champ coming into this one. Can anyone rise to the occasion? Well, he's no stranger to the FRN booth, but it's been a long time since he's joined me up here in the FRN studios. Anthony McCurry joined me here tonight. And Anthony, going to be a wild one here this evening to see if they can keep that 88 at bay because he's got quite a few trucks to pass.
He sure does. He qualified well back in the pack, and he's going to have to fight his way all the way through the pack. But he's got plenty of time, plenty of laps to go, and he's done this race in and race out. There's a reason why he's a 3-time champion in the last 4 seasons, and I feel like he's going to show us again this season why that was the case last season. Last season came down to a thriller. If you didn't see the finale last season, a photo finish at the line and only 2 points separating the top 2 in the championship. If we don't see that kind of racing throughout this season, I don't know how they're going to top last season, but this season you got to keep an eye out for it. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's really funny, though it doesn't really surprise one when it's a super speedway series. Doesn't matter what kind of a format we end up seeing. Back when they first started, there was no playoff system. They then adopted the playoff system, and we ended up having, of course, the new racetrack get added in, which we are at here tonight, Burt Screwdrivers Raceway, I should say, alternating between that and Talladega. And then we end up seeing the implication of a 6-race playoff system, where we ended up having 2 races, and then a 2-race finale. We ended up seeing in all of those different formats, it come down to just meager points. And it all starts here. We end up having the win and you're in system. So with no points on the line, or I should say points on the line, but a clean slate, I should say, everybody starts at 0 points. You got to think tonight, everybody's going to be maybe just a little bit more aggressive than they normally would be later on in the season.
It's had a bit of an off-season lull. You know, they've gone from the last season. They have a bit of a break, and now they're coming back into this season. So I completely agree with you. And they almost have something that they got to prove that they want to set the benchmark for the remaining of the season. If you can set your name up on the top line of drivers tonight, then going into the rest, everyone else is going to say, that's the guy I need to look out for. He's making his way through the field. He's putting down laps. He's winning races, maybe even stay in the top 5. But that's kind of what the mindset has to be going into this race. Now, I want to point something out, Seth, as I think that you've also noticed this. We mentioned that Grant Wesley was going to be coming his way through the field. I don't think he's going to have that big of an issue anymore because I think our qualifying might have gotten reset.
It did. I ended up hearing over comms that a couple of drivers got in late, and so they did set the qualifying session back for them to be able to get into the service, so it completely reshuffled. So we're going to ask that you all bear with us as we take you to the starting lineup. We had the lineup here for us to be able to read you, and now we're not going to be able to do that. We're going to have to take you truck by truck. Won't really be able to name off the rows, but we'll name off who is going to be starting where. So it will be Greg Palmer who's going to end up being the pole sitter, and looks like that's going to be the 616 of Jerm Lewis that's going to be alongside of him. Bob Dixon's going to make up row number 2. You've got the 43s right there, the Dodge of Bob Dixon and the Chevrolet of Richard Martin. 5th place starter. Going to take me a little bit of time to get used to some of these new schemes, as Mark Paglia's got Fender as the primary sponsor on his number 28 this year. And there's the guy you were just talking about, Anthony. Was going to start, I think it was 27th of 31 trucks before the Q grid got reset. And now he's going to be starting up inside of the top 10. That's in the, well, actually, I skipped over Rodney Sullins. My apologies there. He's going to be 6th. Then Shelton in 7th, and then Wesley in 8th, but still up inside of the top 10. Tim Knopfsker going to be, looks like, rolling off from 9th with Donnie Garrett in 10th. Things a little bit staggered here. It looks like Cy Jones is taking a voluntary EOL. Bernie Mobbs, he'll be on the inside of, I believe that's row number 6, alongside of Joe DeSpirito. That's Doug Woolley in the 99, former champion of the series. He'll be alongside of Wiley Coate. New look there for the 55 of Ken Roberts, that bright neon green Mountain Dew Chevy Silverado. He'll be alongside of our champion from a couple of seasons ago. That was Brian Schilling. Bobby Farrell, he'll be alongside of Billy Elliser, the 92 and the 26. There's Jeff Crivello in the 56, State Farm Dodge, alongside of Chuck McClure. Ron Hagelin will share the outside of a row, I'm not sure which row exactly that is, with Josh Metallic, another former champion. JT Mayhew, he's going to be alongside the 39, looks like. As I said, things got a little staggered there. Going to be Glenn Harris, the Krispy Kreme Chevrolet, alongside of the TD Bank sponsored 712 of Bob Seminara this season. New colors as well. New sponsor for Wayne Pribnow in the 44. What was that sponsor again? You gave me the pronunciation, and
Cadova.
Cadova, there it is, Cadova Mexican Grill. He's alongside Milt Surratt. There's Jeremy Jeffries alongside Kelly Causey, new colors for him. Brian Rawson, Terry Bombard, John Godfrey, Craig Hagley, Cy Jones drops to the back, and Doug Hewlick. That is your field for tonight's race. 66 laps of racing at Burt Screwdrivers Raceway, and we are underway in the season opener for season 60.
As everyone thunders through turn 1. Saw someone dip to the apron in the back of the pack. I'm not really quite sure who that was. I believe it was Brian Rawson, who appears to might have a problem with the number 6 machine. He's fallen back quite a bit. He's going to lose the draft almost immediately as everyone goes down the backstretch for the first time tonight. And that's tough news for the 6. I doubt that he'll stay back there for that long. But as it stands right now, Greg Palmer to the inside. This is a very much an inside line-oriented track, and so far, everyone's minding their P's and Q's at the moment.
Yeah, I see a couple of cars, couple of trucks, I should say, moving around there through 3 and 4. Mark Pagley got his left sides down on the yellow line, got a little unsteady clipping the apron as I'm starting to see a third line already forming. That's Brian Schilling jumping up there. Is he going to have anybody go with him? And I'm hearing that I thought maybe it might be a gear problem for Brian Rawson. Got the confirmation, lost third gear, so restarts are going to be horrible for that Mark Martin throwback.
This is a very much a long gear ratio track, so losing third, not something that you want to have happen. Once you get up to speed, it's fine. It's just once you have to get up there. So I said being at the back for long as a caution would definitely help him out at the moment, but if he's going to have trouble on the restarts, I don't think he wants to see very many full course yellows tonight. Lewis led that first lap. He was on the outside line, now pretty much 3x3 starting at row 4 as Lewis in the middle of the racetrack looks like he's going to come around lead lap 2. So far, they've looked really racy, and as we said in the pre-race, they were going to come into this race going a little bit more, flat out, as if later on in the season, maybe in the midpoint of the season, they'll have a bit of a lull, but definitely came out nothing out in the line. This is the first race. You got to make a mark somehow, and we'll already see some trucks in the back getting a little out of shape. Oh! There's one on the apron.
That Ron Hagelin, I believe, in the 111, I believe he saved it, is able to continue on, but that was a close call there. And yeah, to your point, clean slate. If you win, you're into the playoffs. If you bring home the steering wheel here tonight, well, at least you kind of know where you stand in the next, what will be 8 regular season races. Same deal as we had last year, where there's 9 regular season races, 6 playoff races. The only flip side this season is the season opener begins here at BSR and it ends at BSR. Last year, with the alternating tracks, it was Talladega where it started and ended.
I want to mention of the 111, he did spin around a solo car going, or a solo truck spin, I should say, going into turn 3. Now it seems that the 6 is going to have a buddy for a little while, but 111 did spin around. No yellow is out. We stay green, but at the lead, Wesley goes to the point. But yeah, starting and ending at the same track, it definitely has that little bit of, once you learn how to drive it.
Whoa!
I think you saw what I saw.
32 doing a little shimmy back there in the middle of the pack, and when you're 3 wide, as many rows deep as these guys are, that is scary.
That's a good way to make the old heart rate go up a little bit.
Yes, it is. Oh, are we 4? I think we're 4 wide. Jerm Lewis forcing the issue to the inside of Donnie Garrett. Oh, he backed out of it. Thank heavens. That could have been really sketch going into turn 1. As they were, I think Bob Dixon might have gotten the apron through the tri-oval, checked up, and that's what kind of led to that potential 4 wide at the start-finish line. But another thing here, too, we talk about that these drivers not really going to hold back here tonight, kind of in the, no repercussions scenario, all to gain, nothing to lose. Even here when the green flag dropped, I mean, Brand new season. We see this at the beginning of every race. These drivers, they've been out there practicing drafting, practicing green flag pit stops. Now it's time to go, and the adrenaline's at an all-time high. You might end up making some moves here in these first 10 laps that you're not going to make midway through the race when you kind of calm down a little bit.
Certainly not. I don't think that lap 5 out of 66 was when we were going to see our first potential four wide action, but here we are proven wrong. And I have noticed a lot of drivers throughout the mid pack specifically, they've gotten really racy. I've noticed a few checkups, and especially on the inside line when they get down, like you said, there's a couple that tried to maybe put a couple tires inside on the tri-oval and through some of turn 1 entering turn 3. Once you get down there, if you hit that, the elevation or the gradient changes so much that your truck will bounce, and once it does, everybody behind you's got to stack up. They're running around this track at nearly 200 miles an hour. So when one truck stacks up, everyone else behind does. And if you're used to super speedway racing, this is nothing new. But if this is the first time that you're seeing super speedway racing, everyone behind the leaders right now is subject to the leaders. Whatever they do, everyone else does. That being said, if you're third, fifth, sixth on the inside line or actually any line really, you're at the mercy of the guy in front. Whatever happens to them is basically what your fate is. So being racy this early, speaking of, Mark Paglia just got a couple of tires on the inside below the yellow line, but being this racy this early, it could be a potential race ender, and you don't want to have that happen either if you're just going into the season trying to start out strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, for those that aren't familiar, the playoff system is as follows. You don't need to win, but if you're in the top 12 in the point standings, you automatically are locked into the postseason. If you do have a victory, well, you could be inside the top 12 and have that count. You, of course, have the bonus points for every win that you pick up. But if you have a victory and you're outside the top 12, you have to just at least be inside of the top 20 in points for that win count towards a playoff spot. Last year, we ended up having 14 drivers advance into the postseason. And you mentioned a phrase, nothing new. Well, here's something that's not new for everybody in the field, and that's looking at the back bumper of that number 88 Menards Toyota Tundra, because Grant Wesley, one of two three-time winners last season, of course, ended up kind of firing the first shot in the Final Four, winning the first race of that final round and going on to win the championship by 2 points. He has spent a lot of time out in front in those 3 seasons where he's won the championship, and he's picking up right where he left off in season 59.
Absolutely. 88 got into the lead and has not looked back since. He did have the fortunate side for his sake is that the queue got reset, but still, spin in the back. 10 is around. Nobody else has hit him.
But I believe the caution is going to come out for that.
And it is.
Right on the racing surface. So first caution of the night, lap number 9. I was just about to bring up possibility of green flag pit stops if they could keep this going. It looked like they had settled down just a bit, at least up at the front. They were still 3 wide, mid-pack and at the rear of the field. But now this throws a bit of a monkey wrench into fuel strategy, because we know about 19 to 20 laps is how far they can go on a tank of fuel. My calculations right now say that they might be able to make it on 2 stops, but might have to make a third if we stayed green from the upcoming restart on out. Maybe with 2, 3 to go, so it could make things very interesting in the closing stages.
You can already hear some of these drivers start to fuel save. I heard a lot of them clutch as they head to the apron.
That is not a surprise.
They know this game. See, the thing is, too, is that these drivers, they know that it could turn into a fuel strategy race. This is, like you said, their 60th season at this. It's not that they don't know what they're doing. It's that now they get to do it all over again. And how is it cool that they're celebrating their 60th season this year as well?
Started the online series here at RTG all the way back in 2003 when this sim came out. And they have been going strong for 20 years, 60 seasons. Unbelievable feat. I think has to be the longest running series out there for NR 2003. As we go back to turn number 2, take a look at what happened. Terry Bombard, playoff contender last year. Looks like maybe he just gets an uneven bump. Oh, no. I thought he got a bump maybe from behind by Glenn Harris, but it looks like the truck to his inside, which I believe that was Milt Surratt, pushed up. I don't know if Milt got some help or not. Harmless spin there for Terry Bombard, and amazingly, just a single truck incident. So you know that Brian Ross and Ron Hagelin, they're looking up to this guy saying thank you, because now they'll be able to get back up in this lead pack.
Indeed, it is the case, and Yeah, especially because they had fallen off quite a bit. They were about half a lap behind the leaders at that point, so now they'll be able to slap back in line. The
Ah! I just figured out why the contact with the 80. He wasn't there all the way from turn 1 to the middle of turn 2 and then reappeared in the same area that Terry Bombard was in.
good old net code.
Yep.
That's a demon net code. As they make all their stops, looks like it's going to be majority fuel only stops. I'm seeing some right sides going on, but it looks like the majority of these stops are going to be for fuel only. I take that back. I see quite a few getting right sides, but it seems like right sides might be the only thing. As off the pit lane, it's going to be, to no one's surprise, the 88 and the 43 of Richard Martin. That'll be second place. And then Mark Paglia, I think he jumped a couple spots. I think when the yellow came out, he was running, I think, fifth. He's going to be restarting third of the drivers. That is, if he doesn't spin coming onto the back straightaway.
Yeah, we had a couple of trucks actually check up there coming out of turn 2 as well. Who's that went to the apron? Oh, we got one truck around. That is Paglia.
Yeah, that's what I was reacting to. He spun coming out. I think he was trying to get on the racetrack, and I think he just got 2 tires up onto the surface before he fully made the commitment.
That transition. Somebody took evasive maneuvers to make sure they didn't run into Bob Dixon. Oh, I'm hearing that maybe Bob Dixon got into the 28.
A little left tap.
Maybe a little bit. So things looks like everything got reorganized though. Had a couple of drivers elect to stay out here. Bob Simonera inherits the race lead. Cy Jones, Wayne Pribnow, Milt Surratt, Brian Rawson. Now I believe that the 80 is staying out because there are a couple of slight rule changes this season in regards to claiming an incident and serving an EOL. We saw, of course, in previous seasons, it would come down on the second lap of caution and you speed down pit road, which gives you the end of the longest line. But now they've been given 3 options. They can either go with the original option that I just stated, or they can come down pit road, take on service, or do a pass through and then drop to the back, or they can come down, take service, keep their position, and then at the 1 to green, they can drop to the back. So different ways that drivers are able to drop to the rear when claiming an incident. So we'll regardless of which method he chooses, we'll probably see Milt Surratt dropping to the tail end of the field here for this upcoming restart, which will probably be on lap 14. So if I do the quick math in my head, you're looking at lap 33 maybe for the next pit stop, lap 52 for the next pit stop. So it's at least 2 more trips to pit road for these drivers.
I want to give an update on Milt Surratt. I think he's taking the truck out of the race. I don't see him on the racetrack anymore.
You are correct. Wow, that's a tough break there. Maybe the connection problems might be, he might be feeling it's too much and is afraid it's going to cause another incident, but tough to see a driver just 12 laps into the new season suffer a DNF here. He's going to get credited for the 35th position.
So as it stands, only 1 DNF so far. That is, of course, we just mentioned Milt Surratt. I want to keep an eye on Brian Rawson on this restart because he has blown 6th gear. We'll see if he can get up to speed.
It seems 6th gear?
I'm sorry.
Wow.
3rd gear.
You are an IndyCar fan.
He blew 3rd gear. My fault. He blew 3rd gear. I saw the number on the side of the truck and just said gear.
That's fair.
So that was totally a brain skip. But he's missing 3rd gear, so we'll see if he can get up to speed. Craig Hagley and Bob Farrell will be at the end of the longest line. And Grant Wesley will re-inherit the lead after the trucks in front of him have pitted. So that does move the likes of Paglia up to 3rd on the inside.
It does indeed. You'll have the 43 and the 143 on the outside of rows 1 and 2, Richard Martin and Bob Dixon. Looks like Donnie Garrett's going to complete the top 5. Jessica Shelton, Brian Schilling, Tim Nofsker. I believe that is Chuck McClure. No, there's Joe DeSpirito, who's going to be 9th, and Bernie Mobbs will complete the top 10. The aforementioned McClure is going to be 11th, Jeremy Jeffries in 12th. Then Jerm Lewis, Rodney Stones, and Josh Metallic. That's going to complete the top 15. I think we got to keep an eye on that one of Jeremy Jeffries because I mentioned that 2 drivers picked up a checkered flag 3 times last season. And Jeremy Jeffries, all 3 of his checkered flags were right here at BSR. As a matter of fact, It occurred in back-to-back-to-back visits here to BSR, an amazing streak that he was able to go on. So obviously, he likes this racetrack and might be able to see if he can put truck number one in P1 here to start out race number one on the season.
An update on our pole sitter. Greg Palmer is going to be restarting this race, I believe, in the 18th position. He fell back quite a bit after the start of the race. I think he got out on the outside line, and I do believe that that didn't go anywhere much on the start of the race, so he will be restarting quite a bit back in the pack. It's still early on in the race, still plenty of time to get back up for the number 22 Hooters Chevrolet. But I believe we have gotten the one to go, and we'll be going to green next time by, as Seth's already ran through the top 15. Grant Wesley, all he's got to do now is get a good restart. Like I said, it's early on in the race, defending champion, leading the race. However, long way to go. And you mentioned a few drivers that have had an impressive win streak here. Let's not forget that there's also some of these drivers that maybe haven't won a race here in a long time, or maybe not won a race at all. They're definitely going to be sniffing down the 88, and if things go the way it's been going, it could be a pretty explosive middle part of the race.
Bring up that potential underdog story that could happen here tonight. Let's not forget, 2 seasons ago, when Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway made its debut in the Tally Challenge, it only took 200 feet from pit road to the start finish line with the timing of a yellow for the 23 of Doug Hewlick to be able to pick up his first career win. So we could see something like that again here tonight for many of these drivers in the field. They're still looking for that first career win in Tally Challenge Racing as the beautiful FRN Chevrolet Pace truck pulls off onto pit lane. Going to leave the field in the hands of Grant Wesley with Richard Martin to his outside. We saw these two work together at the beginning of the race. Joey Logano coins at the okie dokie. I'll back off a little, let you in. Let's see if the 88 and the 43 do that to be able to work together once again on this stint.
Green flag back in the air. Everyone pretty much got an equal restart. It does not look like Paglia was caught sleeping at all. In fact, right glued to the tail of the 88 as they go into turn 1. Outside line, I've noticed on starts and restarts, does not get going anywhere, but it does eventually come in. That's how a lot of the drivers were able to get up inside the top 10, was on the outside line. But as we stated before, during the start, it goes nowhere. As you see, already a third line forming. 43 ducks down into the inside. That'd be Martin. But look at Brian Schilling coming up through the field, trying to start a middle line out. No one to go with right now. But now I think, yeah, he's got Bob Dixon now linking up with him.
If there's one driver in the field that is not content of just riding in line, it is the driver of the Square D Dodge. Brian Schilling jumping up there. He's going to pick up another Dodge. Behind him and Bob Dixon, Chuck McClure, Tim Knopfsker up there as well. Now DeMar sees that line is moving. He'll move his John Deere Chevrolet up to that second lane. You got to think Grant Wesley, Mark Paglia going to notice that. Let's see if they move up to try and stop the momentum. And here comes a third line. McClure's going to go 1 lane higher with Knopfsker. We may be 3 wide for the lead the way things are shaping up right now.
Middle line and outside line trying to link up together. Didn't quite work. Actually, no, never mind. There goes the 4 up to the outside line, now making it 3 wide in the middle of the racetrack. On the inside, though, Donnie Garrett has found his way into third place, pushing Paglia and the 88 down into turn 3. 24 of Joe DeSpirito. He's not a stranger up in the top 5 at all. He's now made his way up into 4th place. As now, again, the middle line is going to get the short end of the stick as the inside line continues to grow their advantage.
3 wide, Jeremy Jeffries goes to the middle, nobody there with him. If you see Kelly Causey's name on the running order, but you can't find him in the field, there he is. Maybe one of the most fun paint schemes in the field in that 00. He's got Wonder Bread on the side, and what goes on Wonder Bread? Oh, a little bit of Jif peanut butter there on that 00 Chevrolet Silverado. Buckshot pulling out an amazing scheme here for season 60.
In front of him, you've got the 39 of Josh Metallic running the number 39 Tony Kanaan throwback scheme.
Yeah, your favorite scheme in the
That's
field
my
right
favorite
there.
scheme. I saw that, and that was the first thing I glued onto. He's running up into 5th position now. Josh Metallic, also not a stranger to the front half of the field, is now that inside line is pretty much in its own zip code, is all the way back to now Richard Martin, who's found his way back to the inside. I got to admire the commitment, though. Brian Schilling has not made his way to the inside. He's had opportunities to duck in line, but he is committed to this outside line, trying to get it to work. I don't know how well it's working. We did see it working quite efficiently earlier, but for some reason, it seems like it's hit a brick wall.
They just don't have the numbers right now. You've only got 4 that are lined up nose to tail there. They're trying to trail, I believe that's Wiley Coate and Terry Bombard up to them as well, but from Brian Schilling back to Jerm Lewis, 4 trucks is just not going to do it. They got about 6, 7 trucks down that middle line, and then most of your top 10 are down on that inside line, which is prevailing for the time being. I've also noticed that the 6 of Brian Rawson, he's managed to stay up here with the pack. So his third gear issues, there you see him behind Cy Jones. He was able somehow to find his way to stay in the draft, shifting from second up to fourth. So kudos to him. Whatever he was able to do here on this restart, certainly hope that he's going to be able to do it again if we end up having a late race restart and he's up in contention for the win.
Another driver that's made a bit of a recovery after an early race incident is the 111 of Rog Hagelin. He's running right now 12th on the inside line, or 12th overall. And he spun going into turn 3, and actually him and the 6th linked up together and kind of were buddies for a little while until the full course came out. Now inside line, running up on the lead lap. 12th place scored last time around. Not bad for the 111.
Couple of close calls there through 3 and 4. Bit of a late bump from Hagelin to Bob Dixon going into 3. And you saw Glenn Harris a little out of shape as he got his left sides down on the apron there out of turn 4. We've seen a couple of drivers on that inside line have their left sides touch the yellow line. I'm not necessarily certain if just these trucks are dancing around, if the air is making these trucks move a lot more over in that portion of the racetrack, but seeing a lot more checking up on that inside line because of it. Drivers reacting, not certain of how much speed that truck ahead is going to lose.
And I think because of that, we've seen the outside line form and are now starting to gain some momentum yet again. This time, Joe DeSpirito leading the way in front of the pack. He's actually making up some pretty good headway. He's gone from 4th place. He's now pulled alongside of the 00, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's a lot faster coming off of turn 4 as the inside line was. But again, we've seen how dominant the inside line is at this racetrack. It seems that anything besides hugging the yellow line seems to hit a brick wall after they get some momentum.
But you can see that there definitely visibly is a little bit more of an advantage for that second lane, especially on the straights over on the front stretch through the tri-oval. He's alongside right now of Kelly Causey. Let's see if he's able to gain any ground, maybe get up alongside Donnie Garrett or even Mark Paglia. Of course, Joe DeSpirito, multi-time champion of the series, did not make the playoffs last season. We ended up hearing from him multiple times when we talked to him post-race where he said, you know, it obviously helps because I'm not battling for a championship. I'd be a little bit more aggressive to try and go out there and get checkered flags, but you know he wanted to be in those playoffs. He wanted to battle for that championship, so you got to think the 24 might be on the warpath to get that early victory and that automatic locked-in spot into the postseason here tonight.
If the lap times he's running is any indication of it, he definitely is. He's made his way up to 3rd place, now going side by side with the 28 of Paglia. That outside line is starting to pull some weight. And I think it really does come down to what we mentioned earlier, that the inside line, they just don't seem as stable as the middle line at the moment. As they keep seeming that they bobble around a little bit. And as like we said earlier in the program, as soon as one in front bobbles, everyone else got to check up as well. Now you see the 24 outside line trying to get some headway. I dare say that if they get enough head, they might win, or they might lead the lap off this, lead this lap, I should say. But it doesn't look like that's the case, as the 88 still not as comfortable as the lead, but still with the lead.
DeSpirito's got to get to that right rear of Grant Wesley, and they may have bigger things to worry about because here comes the 3rd line. Brian Schilling, are we surprised? He's up in an area where nobody's running. He's picked up Chuck McClure and Tim Knopfsker to come along with him, and they've got a head of steam. I think now when we get to turn 3, we might be looking at them 3 abreast for the top position because that outside line up against the blue wall is motoring.
It is going extremely quick. Brian Schilling now pulling up alongside. 24's taking the lead, but for how long? As here comes Schilling on the outside line with a full head of steam and a lot of drivers behind him. He might take it to the lead. 3 by 3, several rows deep, coming out of 4. And I'm surprised at how well they're able to keep it together at this stage.
Yeah, you can hear it in our voices when we see the 3 wide. We're nervous for these guys because we know one wrong move could be catastrophic. Here's the interesting thing. These drivers are cool as a cucumber. They do this all the time. This is just a regular Thursday night drive for these guys as they are now going to get that inside line momentum. Top 3 will get themselves cleared. Back to Donnie Garrett. It's Kelly Causey now 3 wide with DeSpirito and Schilling. And we talked about this. You mentioned this at the top of the show. It just kind of of seems like that inside line, it will gain the momentum when they get 3 wide, like a flip is switched. All of a sudden the momentum dies in the second and third lanes, and it's really hard to be able to try and figure out what it is that causes that. We've even asked some of the drivers last season, do you know what the component is that leads to that loss of momentum? And a lot of them aren't even sure themselves.
As we saw a huge dip in momentum from the outside 2 lines. They've fallen like a rock. They were up battling for the lead at the last lap. Now, in just 1 lap's time, Despirito crosses the line 7th, but so far away from the leader. And like you said, it did seem like as soon as they went side by side by side, it fell off, and there's no real reason for it. Now, this is the first time that I've been in the booth for one of these races, and this is the first time I've really seen it up close, but you've definitely had experience seeing this, and this must be something, and like you said, the drivers have definitely experienced it, over 20 years worth of experience with it, that even if they don't have an answer for it, then there has to be something that they have to do in order to get that outside line to work. And I know that a few drivers are sticking with it, like the 4 of back here, Schilling, the 4 is still staying with it. That must be the most committed man on the racetrack right now. He's even letting drivers dip below him. He's had opportunities to jump in line. I say that, and he dumps into the middle line. He really has no other choice. He really had no other choice. Nobody was going with him. Everyone was sticking to the stopping to the inside line. But now the outside line is going to gain some momentum again, and it just ebbs and flows all race long.
All right, so I'm probably going to jinx it. The gold commentator's curse is probably going to strike, but we're looking at the target lap of about lap 32 to lap 35 when these drivers are going to have to start thinking about coming to pit road. And there was a period of adjustment these drivers had to go through a couple seasons ago when this track was added onto the schedule. A lot different getting onto this pit road as opposed to Talladega, which we're going to next week, the track that they had raced at week after week, season after season. Drivers had to try and figure out where their new braking zones were going to be and everything. And one of the most aggressive drivers on pit road, whether we're here at BSR or at Talladega, is Grant Wesley, and he's got nobody ahead of him if he continues to hold this race lead, so he can be as aggressive as he wants coming to pit lane because he doesn't have to worry about anybody else's braking zone.
Certainly can. The only thing he's got to worry about is somebody else missing theirs going onto pit road and causing some extracurricular on the way in, but like you said, he's gotten to the lead and stayed in the lead, so no threats at the minute. It looks like everyone's pretty content just to run single file behind him. There's no point in trying to battle too hard at the moment. Now, getting onto pit road is also something interesting at super speedway races because you might want to find a buddy to go down pit road with and come out with them as well, because a lot of these drivers will find somebody that they like to work with and know that they can push, or they're good when they need some help trying to get a line to work. So who do you think is going to partner up with each other? I've seen a few drivers that I might pin down to be a little bit of a pit road buddy, as I'd say, and a lot of them are on that outside line. 24 and 49 kind of, or 39 rather, kind of come to mind. But who else are you looking in this field that might be coming down to pit road together?
Oh,
someone's blown up!
Doug Woolley in the 99 got it off track. I think we're still green. Oh, what a tough break for a former champion. He parks it over there into 3, I think. Are we still under the green flag? No, caution is out. Oh, man.
That's a tough break for the 99. It's one of the threats. You don't know when something like that might happen, and now we're talking about pit strategy. All that's gone out the window.
Yes, it has, but credit to Doug Woolley because he was 4th truck in line. He knew he had the problem. He ducked down below the double yellow line. Everybody else was able to get by. If he had stayed on the racetrack, we might have had the big one there going into turn 3. So amazing heads-up driving by Doug Woolley to get out of harm's way and give everybody still a chance to be able to continue on in this race.
Everyone fanning out on the back straightaway at the moment. Heard a lot of clutching going on as they're trying to stretch out their fuel mileage as much as possible. So now rolls the dice of if they pit now, can they make it on one more stop to the end of the race? And I don't think that's a yes.
It's right on the
close.
mark.
Very
right
close.
On the mark.
So
if
this
they pit
really...
now, they would be at 38 laps to go, which is literally 2 stints of 19 laps apiece.
So they could do it. It just maybe require a little bit of TLC.
Yeah, the strategy games are going to take place here because here's a thought. If you come to pit road at the 1 to green, then maybe you're insured. You're going to make it the rest of the way. you probably could make it to lap 67 or 68 with the 66 in regulation laps. But if you're up here at the front, I don't know if you want to give up that track position.
That's the thing. It's like we've seen that if you're on the inside line, then track position seems to be the king. And but like you said, if fuel mileage is what you're trying to aim for, then some of these drivers at the back of the field, they might want to go for a little bit of a dice roll. And I've seen a couple of them doing it. Triple One is, and the 7 of Cy Jones looks like they might be rolling the dice.
Show you again here with the replay. There you see Doug Woolley, engine blows up. Rodney Sullivan's got a good view of that, or maybe didn't. Probably a lot of fluid, a lot of oil up on the windshield of the number 38. And Doug Woolley, he got off the racetrack in time. And normally, if you get off the racetrack and park the race truck with no oncoming traffic, normally that doesn't bring out a yellow. But we've seen BSR be a little bit temperamental with when it throws cautions and when it doesn't. And looks like in this case, it decided that the 99 stop down in turn 3 warranted the yellow flag to be thrown. As we'll take just another look at it here of the 99's issue. Obviously, in super speedway racing and in other speedway and short track and road course races, we have what's called the random blow up. The setup for these drivers is set to not have the water temperature or the oil temperature spike enough for the engine to expire. So that is just a completely random thing that takes place. But we were talking about this before we came on the air, and I wasn't the one that brought this up. It was actually the driver I'm about to talk about that brought this up on Tuesday night. Monday night was the start of the season for the Barebones Racing Series, and Brian Schilling had an engine expire in car number 4. On Tuesday night, in the Speed Freak Series, David Cannon, who drives the 3, had an engine expire. And so Jeremy Jeffrey says, oh boy, my time is going to be on Thursday night. Maybe feeling a little bit better since it wasn't him that ended up blowing up here almost midway through this race.
Yeah, it went it went completely the opposite. It was one of the highest numbers that we have running in the
Yeah,
field.
we jumped quite a bit.
Yeah, so maybe a sigh of relief for the driver of the 1 machine as the triple 1 is leading the rest of the drivers that stayed out that extra lap down. That might be the difference if it goes to fuel mileage, but
Could be.
we'll have to find out as the majority of the drivers took right sides only. In fact, a lot of them are coming back down. Some of them that had even pitted the last time around are coming back down for some service. The driver that we keep mentioning is Brian Rosin. He's back on the pit lane. He's getting 4 tires and filling it up. So that might also be a bit of strategy. Now, that's also assuming that this race goes green to the end, which can happen and has happened. Something tells me, though, that the way these drivers are racing, they kind of got into that little lull period in the middle of the race, which is to be expected. It's you're just trying to get to a point where you can have a truck in a position good enough to go for the win. But at this stage, once we're starting to tick down the laps, we're just about past halfway. Just getting to about halfway. We're still a few laps from it, but after halfway, when does the nerves start racking up? I know this has been a lot of these drivers. It's been a long time, and they're used to it now. But still, there's a win up for grabs, and it is the start of the season. And we talked about it a lot in the pre-race. When do you start going for the moves?
I think that at least when we start getting to 10 laps to go, because at that point it is race back. All cautions prior to that are frozen field. I think the aggression level, the adrenaline starts to pick up a little more as you get closer to that mark. But we talk about it all the time here, that point of no return around the completion of lap 62. Next flag is going to end the race. We've seen the caution come out just after the cars pass the start-finish line. They have a full 2.66 miles to be able to make a move for the win. We've seen the caution come out with them in the tri-oval, coming to what is eventually going to be the checkered flag. No time to be able to make a move. So once we get around that lap 60, 61, 62 mark, that's when you really start to see the aggression level pick up.
As we line them up, once again, after the this yellow flag period, it will be Grant Wesley leading the way, followed by Donnie Garrett, who will be restarting in the 2nd position now. Then it will be Mark Paglia in the 28th position, flanked to the outside by Joe DeSpirito. Jeremy Jeffries, who is hoping that the 3-2-1 jinx will not happen, but we could still. We're not going to rule that out yet. Josh Metallic will be starting to his outside. Then it'll be Rodney Sullins, Ken Roberts, Brian Schilling, who again is still up in this top battle for the lead, and then Kelly Cossey will be running in the 10th position. That will round out your top 10, still in one of the nicest looking schemes on the field.
Yeah, we mentioned about Jeremy Jeffries and Grant Wesley, multi-time winners last season. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Kelly Causey picking up 2 victories last season. It wasn't his first career win, but his first multi-win season in the double zero, and might be able to see if he can start off the season right here tonight with yet another checkered flag. You see the lights out atop the Chevy Silverado pace truck. Chuck McClure, he kind of faked me out there coming to the 1 to green. I started to see him dip towards pit road entry. He thought better of it. He came back up, going to restart, looks like on the inside of row number 6. So you've got the different agendas here. The drivers that wanted to keep the track position, clutching as hard as they can, trying to save that extra lap, maybe lap and a half of fuel. Everybody else towards the rear of the field came back down pit road, topped off the fuel tank. So if we end up seeing this thing go green to the end, could get very interesting. There's a little part of me that would love to see them go green to the end because, Anthony, one thing you have not seen here in the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series is these drivers with the art of hot pitting. They mastered that art perfectly. There's a strange thing where you can come to pit road at about 100, 110 miles per hour, and as long as you stay on the brakes and get it down to 55 miles per hour, it doesn't black flag you. And a lot of these drivers, they are very aggressive in how they do that. So maybe you'll get to see it here, hopefully. But as you said, first race of the season, tensions are high. We may not have seen our last caution of the night.
Not especially if some of these drivers towards the front try to get a little racy and might try to maybe use a little bit of extracurricular to get to the front of the field. Pace truck will peel off onto the pit lane, and we'll get ready to set them back under green on lap 32 of 66. First race of the season yet again. Grant Wesley trying, holding. It's a long hold for the 88. Once he gets going, though, you got to imagine he's going to dip down as far as he can to the yellow line. Green flag back out in the air. And everyone pretty much got back underway pretty even. In fact, the outside line got away better this time around than they did last time around.
Yeah, Joe DeSpirito, whoa, he just shoved Donnie Garrett there into turn 1. Saw the 77 a little loose. Might have had the rear tires lifted up off the ground as they're trying to keep the 88 pinned to the inside line. I don't think Grant's got any plans about coming off the bottom as he's sticking with Mark Paglia in that 28, and here comes the surge in that middle line. Official word was a engine camshaft for the 99 of Doug Woolley, putting him behind the wall. He joins Milt Surratt as the only 2 retirees up to this point. 33 drivers still on the racetrack, all 33 still on the lead lap as we approach halfway tonight in the season opener of season 60.
I want to give a shout out to a driver that's running up on the top side of the racetrack right now, and that's the 712 of Bob Simonera. We saw him start quite a far way back at the start of the race, now running up in the 11th position last time scored on the outside line, but still quite a few positions gained since the start of the race, and he's looking pretty strong on that outside line.
Yeah, new colors for that 712, and other drivers' livery that I have to get used to. He's got TD Banking as the primary sponsor. Still got LaJoy's on the side of his Chevrolet Silverado, and of course as well, he is the last driver in the series to have taken a checkered flag when he picked up the win in the season finale last year and came up just 2 points shy of claiming yet another championship here in the Talladega Challenge Series as Grant Wesley continues to show the way. If he crosses the line, which he will in the race lead, this will be his 27th lap that he has led here tonight. Next highest driver to lead laps, 3 laps led by Jerm Lewis. Then everybody else that has been out in front has led 1 lap apiece, that being Bob Seminara, Richard Martin, and Ron Hagelin. So the 88's been very greedy with the race lead so far here tonight.
A bit so, as Jeremy Jeffries now jumps to the outside line. Oh, 88 jumps to the outside line too. This is the first time we have seen since the start of the race Wesley go up to the outside line, but now in the process of that has left the 28 with nobody and will now get picked up by the 4 on the inside line. Now the outside line is the strongest line.
Jeremy Jeffries coming off a super speedway win a couple of nights ago. Tuesday night took the checkered flag in the Speed Freak Series at Progressive Speedway in a photo finish with Mark Paglia as he's pushing the 88 of Grant Wesley. And here comes Rodney Sullins now to the inside line. He's been in the Final Four a couple of times in his career, battling for the championship. was not able to advance into the Final Four last year, and he's got Donnie Garrett pushing him, but all of a sudden, that second line looks like it's got momentum back again. The 24, the 39, the 712, the 43. Very tight draft for all four of them down this back straightaway.
Here comes Joe DeSpirito on the outside line, and I think a credit to when the top four drivers were shifting around, they kind of broke away from each other. They lost a lot of momentum, and that was able to give the momentum back to the outside line. Is now coming out of turn 4. Still a little bit faster than the inside line. If Joe DeSpirito can get out front and get in front of the 88, it's going to be a pretty difficult task to get around, and he's got momentum. Here comes at the line. It's going to be DeSpirito leading the way. Everyone else behind will follow suit. Does he get to the lead? I mean, he's got the lead, but I don't think it's got clear.
Dorian says he led that lap, though, so a lap led for the 24. Waiting for the telemetry to show just how close that was at the start-finish line between the 24 and the 88. 11 1/1000ths, it says, and it might be just that close between the two down the back straightaway. One driver who did not want to see that caution, Brian Rawson, we already documented early on, very start of the race, he lost third gear. Under the first caution, he was able to stay with the pack on that restart, but he has since lost the pack here on this previous restart. So he's hoping for another caution to be able to get back into it.
DeSpirito still trying to get to the lead of the race, or get clear of the 88, I should say, as he's still in the lead of the race. He looks like he's going to lead this lap as well. Can't quite get clear, and I think this is really helping the 88, although this is the strongest we've seen the outside line in a long time. Is out to the outside. It looks like the 66 might have bumped out a line just ever so slightly, but to the inside, you have Jeremy Jeffries now second place on the inside line. He's restarted, I believe it was in the third position, so doing pretty well. He's got up to second place inside. If the inside line gets more momentum, but the 88 slips up the racetrack, that's going to hamper. Well, never mind. I was going to say that's going to hamper the momentum. It's only helped the inside line.
Yeah, people probably watching this are thinking, well, how is the outside line able to hold with the inside line when we've kind of seen some gaps back there? Jerm Lewis hasn't been able to really draft up to the back of Richard Martin. Jeff Crivello's been kind of a half truck length behind Jerm Lewis. It hasn't really been a super tight draft all the way back on that outside line, but on the inside line, the tight draft they have, while it's a help on the straightaways, it's a hindrance in the corner, because when you're right up somebody's back bumper going into 1 or 3, there's a lot of checkup as a result. On that outside line, you're able to stay in the throttle a lot longer, don't have to check up nearly as much, and that's why we see the momentum off the corner and onto the straightaway.
Jeremy Jeffries has been sliding around quite a bit as the pusher of the 88, and behind him as well. 38 does not seem very stable either. Rodney Sullins, I've seen him kind of hit the apron ever so slightly, and that's had him jump up to the outside and almost doored the 39 a couple of times, but still they run double file. And this is high quality racing right now. You got to admit the professionalism of these drivers. It didn't quite look like that in the practice sessions, but you got to admit they've been able to keep it steady and keep it green for the most part. We've only had the only cautions we've had so far in this race, if you're just joining us, basically a solo car spin coming out of turn 4, or turn 2 rather, and an engine expiring, and that's all so far. Only 2 drivers officially retired from this race.
Yeah, if we have another caution period, we might want to talk a little bit about that practice session and what we were able to observe, as a couple of drivers this season have changed their numbers. We already saw the 44, the new number for the Wayne Pribnow machine, and third lane being led by Jessica Shelton, moving over from the number 20 to the number 9. That Crown Royal, I believe that is a Ford Raptor, making some headway up there and moving to the front. When I saw her make the move up to that third lane, she was back around the 16th, 17th position. So look how much ground they gained in about a lap and a half.
A lot of momentum still on the outside line. We haven't mentioned her at all this race until this point. Started quite a ways back, had actually qualified pole in the first lotto queue, and then when the second one happened, it was almost a complete field flip for her. Went all the way back down almost to dead last in the field for the start of the race, but now running up into a battle for the lead. That outside line is strong, and the pusher behind, if I can get to it, is Craig Hagley. Craig Hagley is kind of slinky through the field this race. He started pretty much mid and then has gone to the front, to the back, to the front on the pit lane, has had a couple of run-ins on the pit lane, but now outside line, dare I say, almost led the lap that time around.
Yeah, Greg Hagley, another driver that added his name to the list of those that have been able to claim a checkered flag here in the Talladega Challenge Series. Last year, he finished second place in the race to Joe DeSpirito, but DeSpirito got a post-race penalty, and so Hagley was declared the winner. But you got to think that he'd like to be able to pick up a checkered flag as the first truck crossing the start-finish line here tonight. And again, much like we saw in three-wide formation back during the last stint, all of a sudden, the flip is switched, and both lines are starting to fall back. The surge back to the inside line. Top 5, top 6 have gotten themselves cleared. I don't understand it, because I don't see anything in that second or third lane that should lead to that loss of momentum.
It is. It's almost like a light switch, and it's almost like they hit a wall of dirty air, even though that they're running in clean air up at the top. It's almost like the wind coming off the inside line just pushes them back, and they don't really recover until a few laps later. On the outside line now, you see, there's a lot of shuffling going on up at the outside. I believe that was we just mentioned him too. It was no, if I can get to him, Bob Simonera was jostling around, trying to get up in front of Jessica Shelton, and then dipped back to the middle line, and now it's just kind of running all by himself in no man's land as the inside line continues to gain momentum. But again, they just keep falling and falling and falling and falling. Now give it a couple of laps and they'll be back up and they'll be running double file again. But at the minute, it doesn't look like anyone, unless you're inside, is going anywhere. As Simonera, it might have looked closer at the angle I was looking at. It almost got into the side of Richard Martin going into the back straightaway, but working lap 43 of 66. The laps go by pretty quick at this racetrack. We're running in the mid 48 seconds at this stage in the race. The speed seems like it's picked up. We were running in the low 190s, like 193, 194. Now we're seeing drivers consistently running up close to 200. In fact, I think a couple of them cracked 200 going down the tri-oval as 198 for 199. I'm looking at Brian Schilling capping out 198. It seems like the speed's picking up.
I think some of the fastest laps I've seen, as a matter of fact, we just had a lot of them clock in right now at 199.2s and 199.3s, 199.5 for the 22 of Greg Palmer in the 11th position. So yeah, they're trying to get to that 200 lap time here for an overall lap. Now, one thing that I'm a little worried about here for Grant Wesley, well, maybe double worried about. The first thing is I saw him just a few moments ago blink out and blink back in. So last thing you want to do is, in a dominating performance, fall out of the server. But remember, he came down pit road when pits were open the first time around, spent the other pacing laps clutching. He's out in front. He's been out in front. Even when he was battling with Joe DeSpirito and Jessica Shelton, he was leading that inside line. He's consuming a lot of fuel. The big question is, did the 88 save enough to be able to counter having that clean air to the nose and providing draft for everybody else if we stay green to the checkers?
I would struggle to think he would have. We were right on the line of being able to make it to the end of the race, but you got to think that he's got something up his sleeve. Maybe he's betting on that there's going to be a late race yellow come out, or maybe he has saved enough. It might just be barely. He might stay out, or if some of these drivers have to come down the pit lane to get some extra fuel, he might stay out. He might link up with a buddy and do the old switcheroo for a little while and have him fall behind somebody else and have him trail a little bit and get some draft. But whatever the plan is for the 88, it's working so far. Working now lap 46. There's the, speaking of 6, there's the 6 on the outside line getting passed by the leaders. Now again, blue third gear earlier in the race has had struggle on the restarts. The restart prior to the last one, he actually got a pretty good one, was able to stay with the field, but last one again, as Seth mentioned earlier, not so lucky. A lap down now goes Brian Rawson, and that has been a pretty bad start to the season, but still have a long way to go in this season. But this is not the way that you wanted to start it.
And still got a chance here tonight as well. If he gets a caution, obviously he'd be in the lucky dog position. 2 lucky dogs granted per yellow, so he'd have a chance to be able to get back on the lead lap and maybe get back into the hunt here tonight. But we are right now crossing the line for 20 to go. We're right about at the window where if these drivers couldn't make it on fuel, they could pit now and they would be good to make it the rest of the way. But honestly, if anybody's short on fuel, I don't think we're going to see them come to pit road unless they absolutely have to. Because if you came to pit road now, you'd have to take on 2 cans of fuel. If you came to pit road at the very last minute, you probably only have to come in for a splash, and every second at a super speedway when it comes to a green flag pit stop is crucial in terms of track position.
Somebody started the pit road trend early. That was Bobby Farrell in the 92.
Oh, the window's open, and here they come. And never
oh,
mind.
77's around. 77 has gone around.
That shouldn't bring out a caution. That's below the racing surface, and that's going to mess up Bob Seminara, John Godfrey, and others that dove onto pit lane. Ron Hagelin there as well. The only one that was ahead of that melee was the 24 of Joe DeSpirito. But again, down below the racing surface. But we do have a caution. A yellow flag is out, and I'm not sure of why.
That will throw a major monkey wrench into the drivers that had stayed out.
And based on when the caution flew, I would have to go back and see the exact time. If any of those drivers crossed the commitment line, then they'd be able to take service. If the caution came out and they were behind the commitment line, they'd have to just pass through. If they took a pit stop, then it would give them a black flag and they would have to drop to the tail end of the longest line. So we'll have to see if, I think DeSpirito maybe might have gotten onto pit road before the caution came out, but I'm not sure about anybody else.
I think the only one that would have been clear of the commitment line would be the 24, and they've bypassed the safety truck, so I would assume that would be the case.
Yeah, I think they're, yep.
Maybe Ron Hagelin as well. I think that the 111 was in front as well. So
Go
those
back
two.
and see what happened. Normally, when it's down off the racing surface like it was, normally the caution doesn't fly.
I think it was when the second truck got involved. I think when Seminara came in is when it happened, even though that it was below the racing surface. I think when they came off the pit lane and into the grass, that might have been what triggered it.
All right, so I've just gotten the confirmation. This makes a little bit more sense. The 77, when he spun, he blew up. So since the engine expired, that's why the caution came out. If it had been a normal spin, then the yellow would not have come out as we go back and look at the replays. So let's see if we can find the exact moment that the engine... Oh, yep, there you see it. The puff of smoke right there, and then the truck goes around.
Unlucky for double-digit numbers tonight.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, shit. Grant, I'm so sorry.
Oh, Grant. Everyone around you has had problems. Everyone coming down onto the pit lane. No surprise everyone's going to come down on the pit lane. Now, the drivers that stayed out or came down before the yellow flag, do you also... No, you can't. There's no way. They're all staying out. I was about to say, do you come down and get that extra lap of fuel? But if you're under the yellow flag, you'll be able to save a lot more than you would have under green flag conditions. So this worked out perfectly for the 24.
Right. We're looking right here. Okay, there's where the caution lights come on. DeSpirito was already on pit road. Dixon was already on pit road. Hagelin, Godfrey, 712 of Seminara. I don't know if he made the commitment line or not, but he's obviously passed it, so he would have been able to take service. So it looks like everybody that came to pit road on that stint of that group, they would have been allowed to take service. And by consequence, they gain a huge bunch of track position here for what could be the final pit stop of the evening. As they start getting everything organized here, looks like Brian Rawson is going to, by benefit of the caution, going to get the lucky dog, and we'll figure out where everybody's going to restart. Going to be somewhere in the vicinity of about maybe 15 laps to go here tonight, maybe a little less. And we're going to step aside for an FRN race break brought to you by this season's sponsor, 620 Motorsports. We'll be right back after this short break.
Sound muted.
Coverage of tonight's broadcast will resume right after this FRN race break. If you enjoy what you're watching tonight, be sure to give this video a like. Also, it would help us out a lot if you'd hit that subscribe button. And be sure to hit the bell to be notified when we go live here on the Flatout Racing Network. Coverage of tonight's broadcast will resume in just a few minutes. Hope you continue to enjoy tonight's presentation. Lights are out atop the FRN Chevy Silverado pace truck. After all we saw take place there with the third caution of the night, it's Joe DeSpirito now out in front. He's going to have a new second place driver to his outside in John Godfrey. Ron Hagelin will be third. Jeremy Jeffries fourth. Brian Schilling will be in the fifth position. Probably wondering where Grant Wesley is. Well, he's going to restart back in eighth because you touched on this when we were in that race break, Anthony. He spent a little bit longer time on pit road and actually lost a couple of spots there.
He did. He pulled into his pit box, and it looked like it was taking a lot longer to get the fuel into the 88, and he lost, I believe, a total of 4 or 5 positions under the pit lanes, or during the pit stops. So we'll be restarting where he started the race in the 8th place. And then behind him, you've got the likes of Greg Palmer and Josh Metallic and Jessica Shelton, and Jerem Lewis will be starting back behind him. So a lot of these drivers, a lot of shifting going on in the pit lane. Some drivers taking more fuel than others. One thing that was consistent was, well, actually a little bit topsy-turvy as well, was that there wasn't that many tire changes. We saw a lot earlier on the race. There was a lot of right sides going on. Not quite as many this time around. A lot of these drivers still on old tires. Only 14 laps to go when we hit the stripe. Not that big of a concern, but that might have had something to do as well with the changing of positions on the pit lane.
Got 13 people watching here as we get ready for a 14-lap restart. Already saw that Quentin Wainwright is rooting for Bob Seminara. Let us know who you're going to be rooting for here in the closing stages of tonight's season opener of Season 60 of the RTG Talladega Challenge. We're back underway. Joe DeSpirito up through the gears. Point of note, the 6 of Brian Rawson, the 92 of Bobby Farrell, who had some connection problems and fell out. The Lucky Dogs back on the lead lap. So we've got all of our remaining drivers continuing this race, 32 in total. The most recent retiree, obviously due to the engine problem, Donnie Garrett joining Doug Woolley and Milt Surratt in the garage area for the conclusion of this one.
Down the back straightaway, lap 53 of 66, a shove to the back end of the 24 from Ron Hagelin, trying to get to the 24 to get some momentum on the inside line. He's got quite a few helpers behind, but dipped to the outside line. It's got a little bit of momentum. John Godfrey trying to pull his own weight on the outside line, still alongside for the second place position with the 111. And again, we've seen that outside line. It'll get some momentum. How long can they hold it? Will they be able to get around this 24 as they cross the stripe?
And we've got a third line forming as well. I saw Shelton and Ken Roberts jump up there. Greg Palmer, the pole sitter, now up there as well. Rodney Sullins has joined their ranks. Let's see if maybe Jeremy Jeffries or John Godfrey see that momentum coming. And if they shift up to that third groove, doesn't look like the 88 or the 1 are going to move up to that third line. So Rodney Sullins making the charge to the front. Let's see if they can get the job done before we see that kill switch ignite again.
3 by 3 by 3 all the way through the field as the 111 does not look like he can keep it on the bottom of the line. We saw that a couple of bobbles happen in the last in turn 1 and 2. Now through onto the front straightaway. Still clean and green so far. Outside line got broken up. It's now going to go 4 wide if they don't find a way out to the top side. That'd be the 38. Almost a third of 4 wide. We're back to 3 wide racing, but still a lot of bobbling going on. They know that we're coming down to almost 10 laps to go. The point of no return is coming up as well. And if they get to that point, well, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, that killed that third lane, though, with Greg Palmer unable.
Whoa!
Oh, wreck in the back. Bobby Farrell is going to go around off the nose of Craig Hagley. He almost had it saved. Caution is going to fly once again here. That's going to be caution number 4, and it is not less than 10 to go, so I believe that they are not racing back. Oh, maybe they are. They're still up through the... Yeah, they're still racing back. All right, so I thought we were not at the 10 to go mark yet. Maybe we're right at 10 to go as DeSpirito going to lead them back. Hagelin in second. And Mark Paglia looks like he's going to get the third position, just barely over Brian Schilling and Rodney Sullins. That means that the next restart is going to be with less than 10 laps to go.
Oh my goodness.
Chuck McClure, where are you going?
They were all racing as if the caution wasn't out. I don't think they knew the yellow was out.
All had to slow up there for the pace truck that was just exiting out of turn number 2. McClure nearly looped it around on the back straightaway, but able to keep it off the inside wall and continue on.
That was odd.
That
they
really
didn't slow
was.
down. They just slowed down on the exit of turn 2 when they were getting up to where the safety truck was. So that seems a bit odd.
Yeah, we were on 12 to go. And I believe that the ruling is it's at 10 to go that they race back. So,
I don't think they realized.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, it's not like there's not enough yellow lights around the racetrack to see what's going on.
Let's go back and see what brought out the yellow flag nonetheless. Contact between Bobby Farrell and Craig Hagley. This was at the very back of the pack. And I held off on saying that there was a wreck because it looked like for a brief moment the 92 might have been able to straighten it out and continue on, and we would avoid the caution flying. Let's see if we can dissect what happens here as... Oh, little contact actually with the third truck on the inside line. That was Cy Jones pushing up into the left front of Bobby Farrell, and that sent him up into the path of Craig Hagley.
So, fairly minor 2-truck incident.
Yeah, we've not necessarily had a big wreck here tonight, have we? We had a couple of engine failures. We had the solo spin by Terry Bombard that brought out the first yellow, and now a harmless, it looked like, solo spin by Bobby Farrell. That could be a good thing. That could also be a bad thing because we still got a pretty good chunk of race still left to go. This is a pretty big super speedway.
And with the way that the last restart went, they were super racy all the way around the racetrack. They might now have more incentive because at this stage, the next flag will end the race no matter what it is after we go back to green. So these drivers might be more willing to put their truck in places that might not belong at. As I want to give a shout out to, we were talking about things that have happened throughout the race. You're mentioning, the engine problems, the solo car spins. We should have had one extra yellow, and that's for the man running in second place. Ron Hagelin
Yeah.
spun around in turn 3. No yellow came out. He's now running second place, so super recovery drive for the triple one, and that really is the never give up attitude.
Yeah, granted, got lucky with the timing of the most recent caution. Not this one, but caution number 3 was on pit road and was able to take service. So, by benefit of everybody else having to pit, gained a ton of track position, as did our race leader, Joe DeSpirito. But you're right, taking lemons and making lemonade there for the driver of the triple one Coca-Cola Chevrolet. Quentin Rainwright also rooting for Joe DeSpirito, and I want to thank Jason Sheck in our comments, letting us know that it is actually raced back with 15 to go, so it makes sense why they were racing back to the caution flag there.
As nobody, I would imagine, would be coming down the pit lane at this
No.
stage. Hagelin trying to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna go down." I don't think anybody bought it.
Just a little tease. Little fake in
little,
it.
little, little spice for the fans as they run right now. If the race were to end at this stage, Despirito would win the race. Hagelin second place. Paglia, I believe, would have been in the third place position. It kind of got a little weird when they crossed the line. And again, they kept it full throttle all the way around the racetrack. I'm not really quite sure they fully realized the yellow was out.
No, they did. I've just gotten the confirmation.
They did. Okay.
15 to go.
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
when they can race back.
Okay.
I don't know why. I have 10 stuck in my head. I'm pretty sure I made this mistake several times last season as well. I don't know why I'm fixated on it being 10 to go as the opportunity then to race back. But it is 15 to go for these drivers.
It does
What do you
sound like
think?
it makes
I
sense,
said
though.
about on the next caution period a little story time of what we observed in practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, his engine has survived up to this point. Jeremy Jeffries, we talked about the storyline of Schilling and Cannon in the last couple of nights here this week. However, his engine did not survive practice.
No, not at all. He barely survived practice. Basically, what happened was going into turn 3 during a pack practice, he got a little nudge and found his truck wedged into the catch fence. And then for the next 10 or so minutes, it was just flyby after flyby of trucks trying to knock him loose from the catch fence. And I think it finally took, I think it finally took
I think it was
Schilling.
I think it was Ken Roberts, Brian Schilling, Grant Wesley, and Craig Hagley. I think those 4 were the ones that got him dislodged.
He basically parked it underneath and had somebody
Yep.
ram into him and knock him loose. But he did get out of the catch fence eventually. It was a harrowing 10 minutes worth of flyby to try and get him out, but had survived that. But that was pretty fun. If you could only see the preview of what some of these drivers do while the pre-race is going on, then we would have a catalog full of hilarious moments.
You can only practice so many super
Oh yeah,
speedway
absolutely, yeah.
laps.
Sometimes you gotta have some fun.
Now, one thing I have to say about Jeremy Jeffries, I'm a little bit disappointed personally. Of course, last season we saw in the last couple of races the debuting of the new sponsorship Busch Beer, of course running it full time this season, but prior to that he had Oreo as his sponsor. And there were a couple of times that we ended up seeing him in the 338 of JT Mayhew, who's done a great job tonight, going to restart in that 8th position with the Chips Ahoy sponsorship. And 2 Nabisco companies represented there, so I called them the National Biscuit Coalition. It's gone now. It's just JT. Someone's got to do a Nabisco sponsored truck and get that co-op petition back.
We gotta have the alliance. Do it.
I mean, maybe Busch Beer can make a Chips Ahoy flavored beer or something. I don't know.
Ooh. Oh, actually.
Which would you actually do first? Would you drink a cookie flavored beer or eat a beer flavored cookie?
I think I'd go more for the cookie.
Yeah,
I don't
probably
know.
me too.
Something
Yeah.
about liquid cookie just doesn't seem very good. As we stack them up, ready to go on to lap 60 of 66. That'll put us about 7 laps around the racetrack.
Yeah, and
Joe
about 3 laps away from that point of no return.
Absolutely. So theoretically, it is. If you're thinking short term, it's a 4 lap race. If you're thinking all the way to the end, then it's a 7 lap race. Joe DeSpirito will lead them down to the green. It'll be Hagelin, Paglia, Schilling, Metallic, Sullins, Godfrey, and Mayhew starting in the top 8, and then rounding out the top 10 with Palmer and Jeremy Jeffries. Now, after the last restart, we said that all these drivers had to do was, especially the ones on the outside line, they had to get a better restart or have an equal restart to the inside line.
Yep, and keep the draft tight.
Exactly. They had to get a lot of side draft from these, which they've been doing all night. Again, they've got to do the same thing, and the stakes are arguably much higher at this stage in the race as safety truck pulls down onto the pit road for what we hope will be the last time. But I have a gut feeling these drivers are about to ramp it up a few notches.
Moves will be more aggressive. Back bumpers will be wider for blocking purposes here, as this restart's going to be with a total of 7 laps to go. It's Joe DeSpirito leading them back down. Green flag is in the air. The big question is, what flag are we racing back to? Is it the caution? Is it the yellow flag? If we end up having a caution come out before that target lap of 62, everybody running is on the lead lap, so we would get at least one more restart, maybe a green-white checker, maybe a one-lap shootout, but we get past that lap 62 mark, next flag's going to end the race.
Joe DeSpirito doing a fantastic job so far of making sure that he can go wherever he needs to be as the 39 dips to the outside. No one's going with him. Middle line is going to be the prevailing line as DeSpirito is going to take Schilling with him as there was a little bobble from DeSpirito. I thought they might have been having some connection issues, but has worked it out. DeSpirito, middle line, working now. Schilling on that middle line with him. Pull Rodney Sullins in as well, as now they dip to the inside, or does Schilling go to the outside trying to take the lead?
He will go to the outside. Rodney Sullins will be with him. Now, maybe some speculation on my part, but what I just saw there on that last lap, Ron Hagelin might have lost second gear, and Josh Metallic might have lost third gear, because they dipped up to the outside line and they dropped like rocks to the rear of the field. You do not want to have that kind of a restart here in the closing stages, as Schilling goes to the point. Rodney Sullins into second. JT Mayhew now up to third, and Jeffries going to dip to the bottom to lead the inside line. That's the battle for third place.
Jeffries now gets blocked by Sullins, who will be trying to go for the lead off of the 4, as now they freight train on the inside line. That inside line pulling a much bigger advantage now. Sullins, you got to give him credit. He's been quietly lurking, not really been up at the front, but now will lead the first lap of the night, I think, for the 38, as he'll take the lead officially.
You are correct. That is the first lap tonight for the Black Rifle Coffee Chevrolet Silverado. Third line forming, Jessica Shelton making some headway with Demar and Germ Lewis up there. Middle line has now lost the momentum. Inside line starts to get a little bit of surge now as Schilling. You see him duck from the middle right down to the inside in front of the 088 of Tim Nofsker. We're at that point of no return. Let's see if they can keep it together for another 4.5 laps, as now top 4 get themselves cleared. The battle is for 5th. Godfrey on the bottom. Caution's out. Yellow flag is out. I'm not sure what for.
Be the 32.
Are we getting a restart? I don't know. Here's the move to the top for DeSpirito. He might think this race is heading under caution, as Rodney Sullins is going to cross the start-finish line in the race lead, but it begs the question, was that point of no return? That right there was the completion of 62. We were on 62. We may be en route to a one-lap shootout here in the season opener.
This could be spicy, as they're still wrecking under the yellow. As
McClure again with some problems here in the slow-up period. He just got into the wall, and maybe showing a little displeasure to the 5 of Wiley Coates.
There are some tempers flaring at the minute.
Oh boy.
I believe that the yellow came out for the 32 of Hagley. I saw briefly that he was much slower than everyone else with quite a bit of right side damage.
Take a look and see what might have happened. West Virginia sponsored Ford F-Series, and
oh yeah,
he got some help.
And it has been, oh actually, it was from someone I didn't expect. It was from the 111.
Yeah, almost looked like the 32 didn't realize he wasn't clear and came down across the 111's nose. They were 4 wide for a brief second. And Glenn Harris, innocent victim, caught up in that one as well.
So again, it pretty much a solo car spin, save for Glenn Harris getting some
Yeah,
contact from
again.
it. That could have been much worse than it was, and again, these drivers have kept it pretty clean throughout this whole race.
Pretty good pancake to the right side, as you pointed out, for Craig Hagley. Maybe some damage to the right rear of Glenn Harris after he got clipped and got a bit of the safer barrier. So now it's up to the race officials. Now it's up to the pace truck. Do the lights go out? They'd have to go out next time by. If they
Absolutely.
don't go out next time by, then that means the race is going to end under the caution flag.
Something
And Rodney
tells
Sullins,
me.
here's the interesting thing for Rodney Sullins, okay? So his first career victory, we ended up not necessarily seeing it because he got it when I believe Chuck McClure, who was the race winner when we went off the air, got a post-race penalty during the week, and Sullins, who was second, was awarded the win. We missed his second victory, which was last season, because at the time, I was on vacation. So he is hoping, against all hope, that the lights do not go out atop that Chevrolet Silverado pace car, because he wants to actually be the first one crossing the start-finish line live on an FRN broadcast.
That would be amazing. I can't believe that's happened twice. But yeah, the only one that right now that wants to see this race end under yellow is the driver of the 38, Sullins. Now, that was pretty dominant. You saw, and you could see the sense of urgency. A lot of drivers dipped out trying to make a pass when they realized that the yellow was out. That tells me that these drivers behind knew that this race might end under yellow. I don't think the way that this race has gone, I don't think that we're going back under green.
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot of drivers not certain if we're going to get that one-lap shootout or not. Honestly, I'll be surprised if the lights go out. I think that we ended up crossing the point of no return. I think that the timing of that yellow midway through lap 62, I don't think we're going to get back green, despite the fact that we have everybody on the lead lap. But I could be wrong. You see him doubling up here just in case. Rodney Sullins, his heart's got to be in his throat right now. By the way, while we're waiting for the big reveal here, actually, hold on. We'll wait and see if we're going to go back green before we do a little bit more talking about beer and cookies here, because our
Oh, Lord.
YouTube chat has gotten into the conversation about it. Let's see. Almost feel like we need to have the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire theme playing in the background here, as
Ronnie Sullins is going to win this race.
he's going to win this race.
How about that? Ronnie Sullins. Now, he was.
Oh, wait, whoa, hold up. Wait.
What's going on?
My scoring is still showing them now onto lap 65. Oh, yeah, so even if lap 66 came out. Okay, never mind. I'm trying to spin conspiracy theories here, apparently.
Now, you could argue that if the lights came out the next time around, they'd have that brief window where they could race to the line, but,
yeah, but
it's
they
not. Yeah.
No.
Rodney Sullins will win this race. Official, well, not official yet. We still got to get around 2 more laps, but Rodney Sullins en route to win this race. And you got to admit, we hadn't talked much. I mean, we have talked a lot about Rodney Sullins throughout this race, but he's not really been at the lead. In fact,
Very under the radar.
Yeah, he was lurking. We always saw him.
He was there, as we say.
Yeah, we always saw him. He was always in our camera shot in some way, but never really front and center. But now, by way of some pit road shenanigans and a couple of English, a couple of lucky yellows, he has now found his way into the lead of the race and will win the season opener, provided he can get the 38 around the racetrack.
And you know what this means? This means 8 weeks of just having to keep yourself in the top 20 in points.
Indeed.
This is the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory here. You've got yourself locked into the playoffs. You can ramp up the aggressive level now for 8 weeks, because you know that as long as you finish up inside the top 20, that win's going to count towards a playoff spot. Why not go out there, try and win a couple more, ramp up some more bonus points for when the playoffs are reformatted?
Ronnie Sullins finished 5th in the standings last season. Didn't quite get out of the top 8.
Yeah, he just missed the Final Four.
So he will be eyeing that Final Four this season, trying to make it a... I don't know if he's a past champion or not, is he?
No.
No, so he's trying to go for his first championship win. He came close, almost got to the final four this season. Starting out pretty well as the yellow and white flag are displayed as we have taken the final lap now. But yeah, if you're Rodney Sullins, like you said, this is the perfect way to start it out.
Absolutely. Rodney Sullivan's just going to have to baby that Chevy Silverado around for one more lap to pick up this victory. So in terms of the Oreos and cookies and beer conversation, Jason Scheck says that you should dunk your Oreos in Bush.
Interesting.
James Qualls says a Chips Ahoy flavored beer or a beer flavored cookie, yuck. So he's not on board with either one. And Jason Scheck also chimed in and said double stuffed Oreo beer flavored ice cream.
Okay, now see, we've opened a whole nother can of worms. Like now we're dipping into ice cream.
Now, I will admit, I have seen Oreo crumble ice cream and I have seen beer flavored ice cream. So they exist. I just don't know if they've ever actually been meshed together.
The only reason I say no to dipping cookie in beer is because I have tried a chocolate beer before. It was like a craft beer,
Okay.
and that was the worst. So I'm basing my entire theory on whether or not this would work off of one experience, but I don't know.
Can you live with yourself having to call a designated driver getting intoxicated on an Oreo blizzard?
Oh Lord! Hey, look, if Dairy Queen in Las Vegas is listening, why not make like Tequila Blizzard? Now you have my attention.
Oh boy. Well, Rodney Sullins has our attention. He's making his way here through the Tri-Oval, getting ready to pick up his first win on the season. I believe it's going to be his third career win. Try and keep myself up to date on the stats. I'm sure he'll definitely know what number career win it is for him, but he finally gets to cross the start finish line here on FRN as the race winner. Takes the checkers here at Burt Screwdrivers Raceway with Jeremy Jeffries and Joe DeSpirito, the top three. We're going to be talking to them post-race. As you can see, pretty popular win there. Congratulations to him from just about everybody in the field.
That is definitely. Oh,
Oh, there's always one. Tim, you're the one this week.
Yeah, so much celebration that he can barely get around the racetrack. But yeah, you can obviously tell one of the most popular drivers on the circuit. It doesn't seem like he's done anything to make anybody mad at him, and or again, can be on cruise control this whole season if he needs to be. Doesn't have that pressure of needing a win. Needs to stay within the top 20, but with a field of about 35 drivers week in, week out, then I have a feeling staying in the top 20 in points will be pretty easy for this 38 team. And again, he did it pretty nonchalantly. Only took the lead late in the race. Hadn't led a single lap prior to about, 6 laps ago. And now,
That's exactly when it was.
Yeah, now here we are.
Yeah,
Winner
ended up
of
leading,
the first race.
6 laps, and only 2 of them under green. Made the move when it mattered the most.
And he made the most of his pit road time as well. We saw that a lot during the pit lane shakeups, that he was one of the few that dared do a different pit strategy, and it certainly paid off dividends tonight, as he gets to do a burnout for the first time on FRN after officially winning the race. I think he blew the engine though.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's purposely parking right up there next to
Oh
that
yeah,
logo.
I see it. Yeah.
See if we can get a camera shot of that logo. There it is. Brian Freeman logo. This racetrack built in memorial to him. And so an emotional moment there for the driver of the 38, as he's going to get to celebrate in victory lane for the first time here in season 60. Let's show you the full finishing results from tonight's race, as standings are now official. We gave you your top 3. Another guy who was there all night long, Mark Paglia, going to bring it home in 4th place. John Godfrey going to get the 5th spot. Jessica Shelton had that late move up there on the outside line along with Richard Martin. They'll bring it home 6th and 7th. Greg Palmer tried to go coast to coast tonight. Started on the pole, gets a top 10 in 8th. Brian Schilling's going to finish in 9th, and Jerm Lewis going to complete the top 10. A couple of drivers that we saw up at the front in the early going, drifting back in the later stages. Kelly Causey was a mainstay up inside the top five most of the first half of the race, brings it home in 12th. Grant Wesley, who led the most laps tonight, 41 of the 66 laps, finishes in 13th place. Josh Metallic, he drifted all the way back to 17th, though again, I believe he may have ended up having a gear problem there in that final restart. Bob Seminara fell all the way back to 20th place. So there were a lot of comers and goers here in those final couple of restarts.
Certainly were. As another one that we need to mention is Ron Hagelin. He
Yeah,
had that spin, came back up to the front, and then fell like a rock back to 25th. And got to give credit, though, to our original gear issue, which would be Brian Rosen. Mentioned him at the beginning of the night. We'll finish the night in 26th, but considering all the issues he had tonight, not a bad showing for the six on the opening race of the season. I want to mention one more driver that finished in 11th. We didn't mention him, I don't think, once tonight, but just again, like Sullins, was just kind of quietly lurking around in the top 15. And that's Tim Nofsker. He
absolutely.
finishes in 11th.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time we've mentioned him all race.
I think you might be right. Yeah, very quietly, methodically working his way up towards the front. He was, I believe, trapped in the middle line in the closing stages and drifted back. Otherwise, he might have finished up inside the top 10, maybe inside of the top five. Just circumstances not working out for him in the closing stages before that caution came out. And you saw the rest of the drivers where they finished. I'm not certain what happened with the 26 of Billy Elliser because I thought that all of our remaining 32 drivers were going to finish on the lead lap, but they've got him scored -1. Three drivers out of the race: Donnie Garrett, Doug Woolley, and Milt Surratt. Two of those drivers tonight, engine problems. We didn't have a big one tonight, as you pointed out. Mostly our cautions were mechanical failures or solo car spins. So that shows what we commentators know. We're like, oh yeah, we're gonna maybe see some big wrecks tonight with them racing aggressively, starting with a clean slate, and and then we have maybe a two truck incident for our biggest wreck of the evening.
Yeah, we were expecting well, we were went in with a clean slate. We ended up with a clean plate for a race.
We
Nobody
did.
nobody really pushed the issue, and or even if they did, they kept it clean. And we saw three wide, almost the threat of four wide, several times throughout the night. It wasn't that they were not racing hard; it's just they were able to do it and keeping it clean. And that just shows the 20+ years of experience a lot of these drivers have in this series. I want to mention too, Milt Surratt, our very first retiree, not even an issue with anything to do with mechanical, had to park the car because of connection issues.
Yeah.
He didn't fall out of the server or anything, he was just having some severe lag. So the 80 unfortunately never really got past 10 laps into this race.
Yeah, tough break there for him. One thing that we need to mention here too, obviously these drivers at the beginning of the season are racing for those crucial playoff positions, get that automatic lock in before we get to crunch time later on in the regular season, but also the top 32 in points. In a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be having the Tally Challenge bracket series going on. The top 32 drivers in points will be seeded accordingly in that. So that's something that these drivers have to look forward to as well. Let's see if we can go down track size. We head into our FRN post race wind down and see if we can dial up the driver that brings it home third place here tonight. And that's the driver, the 24, Joe DeSpirito.
User was moved to your
Hey, Joe, it's
channel.
Anthony and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Hey boys, I got you. How are you?
Well, I'll tell you what, you had a strong truck there in the closing stages, but got past late. We saw you make that move there when the caution came out, tried to get to second, maybe try to get up to the race lead. At that point in time, did you feel that this was going to be the race ending caution, or you think maybe you'd get another shot at him?
Yeah, I wasn't sure there. I just went for it in the trial. I didn't think I had a shot at getting the lead out of four. You really need a big run, and I didn't really have one. So yeah, I just made a few mistakes at the end there. Rewatching it just now, I can't really block the whole track at the same time, but there was one move that I could have made that changed everything, and I didn't take that move, so that changed everything.
Speaking of runs we saw throughout the race, we noticed that a lot of drivers in the middle and high line, we get some massive runs earlier on during a run and then just hit a brick wall, fall off as if they had literally hit a brick wall. I know that we touched on a little bit during the race, but as a driver, how was it feeling some of that, the issues on the outside and middle line when they were trying to make a pass when all of a sudden all your momentum just went away?
Yeah, it just seemed like that third lane wasn't very successful all night. It just kind of kept slowing the middle lane down. That's really all it was doing. So, if you were in the middle lane and you saw the third lane coming, you kind of knew you were just going to get pulled to the back. You didn't think that they were going to pass you on the right side there. I don't think it worked all night. That bottom lane, I don't say that bottom lane was fast, but it was just very steady all night, and that was the lane that won the race. So it just kind of dogged things down. It was just like a parachute that kept coming out. I don't know if the setup was changed. I'm not really sure. It's been 3 weeks since we raced, so um, but it did seem a little bit different tonight.
Obviously, we documented near the end of last season. Unfortunately, you didn't make the playoffs. You said that helped you be a little bit more aggressive going out there trying to get checkered flags to close out the season. Obviously, you want to make the playoffs here this season in season 60. Didn't get last season off to a great start in the season opener, brought it home in the 25th position. I know you wanted that checkered flag tonight, but how important was it to finish up here in the podium to get this season started?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's total flip flop from last year. I think I started 30th or 35th last year. Just had some bad luck last year, and no, I finished strong. Last 5, 6 races, a lot of top fives, top tens. So I'm just trying to continue that into this season, and yeah, I'm feeling good, feeling loose. I kind of said it last season, but there's a little silver lining there. Missing the playoffs, it kind of let me race and have fun again instead of racing with all that pressure. So yeah, it was good. It was fun tonight.
Well, you had that truck out in front, led 14 laps here this evening, bring it home with a solid podium finish. Congratulations on a job well done, getting season 60 off on a high note. Before we let you go, Joe, the floor is yours for thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Appreciate it, guys. I want to thank RTG as always. Want to thank you guys at FRN. I want to thank Jason Sheck for sponsoring the season this year. I want to thank my sponsors, Mobs Motors, Old City Fly Shop in St. Augustine, Florida. Able Reels. I want to thank everybody watching at home. My dad, my uncle Travis, LC, Dan, and everybody at work. And yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
As Joe DeSpirito brings it home on the podium, third place here tonight to kick off the 60th season of the RTG Talladega Challenge. Once again, congratulations. Best of luck next week as we head to Talladega.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
User was moved out of your
All right,
channel.
let's see if we can get our second place finisher here tonight, Jeremy Jeffries.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Jeremy, Anthony, and Seth up here in the FRN studios. You got us?
I do. What's up,
I'll
guys?
tell you what, 3 wins last season, all of them coming here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. 1 position short here tonight. That caution kind of throwing a monkey wrench into everybody's plans and making moves for the win. If you'd had this thing finish under green, do you have some kind of a strategy to get around that 38 and pick up a win to start out the season?
Honestly, I was happy where I was at. I was content to push Rodney for as long as I had to, and hope that somebody didn't get a run on us and pass us. Because I was with him. I was good with second. It's a good way to start the season. Nice, strong opening race.
Yeah, we noticed that there was a lot of darting around early in the race, and it kind of got into a lull in the middle of the race. But this is a pretty good start to your season, starting second place. Now, you did make the top 4 in the championship last year. Finished out finished out the season in the 3rd position. What's your mindset going into this season? You think you can get all the way into the final 4 this time around?
Well, that's definitely the plan. I'm on my way there so far, so let's keep it going.
So up here in the booth, we were talking about the fact that usually in the season opener, everybody's got a clean slate. They're starting at 0 points. It's kind of a all or nothing type scenario, maybe, because if you end up crashing out, you've got 8 more weeks of recovery to make it into the playoffs. But if you get that victory, you've got 8 worry-free weeks to just keep yourself up in the top 20 with an automatic playoff spot. We didn't see a lot of big wrecks here tonight. A lot of solo truck spins, some mechanical problems and everything. Up here in the booth, we were predicting that we might see some mayhem. Did you have any feeling down there, obviously being in the field, that we might see some mayhem, or did it seem relatively calm to you?
The first probably 10 laps, I felt like were a little sketchy there. I kind of rode around in the back, and then it seemed like things settled down, so I started moving a little bit forward and eventually worked my way up towards the front there. And yeah, I didn't see too many problems, too many people that were racing too aggressively or that got me too concerned. So I was willing to move up. But my original plan was to just lay in the back, see how things developed. I figured first race of the season, it would probably be a little bit of chaos, and thankfully everybody proved me wrong.
We'll see if that intensity picks up when we go to Talladega next week. Jeremy, obviously, as you said, a great way to start out the season. Second in the point standings with the second place finish here tonight. A good way to start the road to try and make the playoffs and get back into that Final Four to compete for the championship at the end of the season. Before we let you go, though, the floor is yours to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Congrats to Rodney. I know he's been trying to get one of these broadcast wins. It seems like he just hasn't been able to do it. So congrats to him. It was cool to push him there at the end. Thanks to you guys for putting on this broadcast. Anthony, it's good to have you in the booth. So I'm waiting to see how this thing. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. All the owners and admins here at RTG, and for Jason Sheck and 260 Motorsports for coming on and sponsoring the broadcast this season. That's amazing. So big thanks to them. My XFM teammates, family, friends, and everybody watching. Thank you.
Jeremy Jeffries, second place here tonight. Your engine survived as well. We did a little bit of the talking of what was going on this week with the 4 and then the 3 and how you might be next. So engine survived and you bring it home with a good finish. Congratulations.
Glad Hank didn't show up last night.
Yeah, right. So Jeremy Jeffries, good start to his
User was
year.
moved out of your
And
channel.
he finishes second to the guy that we're going to talk to now, who has made his way into victory lane. Driving that number 38, Rodney Sullins.
User was moved to your
Rodney,
channel.
Anthony is Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I sure do. How you guys doing?
I'll tell you what, I know this isn't your first Tally Challenge win, but I am going to say the word finally because we were able to document it here on FRN for the first time. You pick up that checkered flag, you get that automatic ticket into the playoffs. It's got to be a huge weight off your shoulders with the 8 remaining races.
Yes, it's unbelievable. I never expected to win tonight. Things just worked out. Well, obviously, I need to thank Jeremy Jeffries for sticking with me there. Moved below Schilling. Kind of thought he might move down. Expected him to move down. Then when he didn't, I just was like, well, okay, let's see where we can go. And I think he thought it was a little too close. So, and I appreciate that. That would have been bad if a wreck happened. But man, I'm excited. I can't believe it. All I got to do now is stay in the top 20, and I'm in the playoffs and just relax and have a fun season.
Yeah, huge weight lifted from your shoulders from the get-go. We saw late in the race where throughout the middle of the middle portion of the race, it kind of got into that little like super speedway kind of run your own line and try to get towards the end of the race. And then once the final 10 laps or so started to kick off, we saw everyone starting to dart around making moves. You were kind of quietly sitting around in the top 10 throughout most of the race, maybe top 15, and then all of a sudden make a huge charge to the front. Did you have any partner that you wanted to draft with to get up to the front? Because we kind of, like we said in the during the race, just watching you kind of quietly make your way through the field and all of a sudden leading the way. What was your strategy going into the final 15 or so laps after we had a kind of barrage of a few solo truck spins that brought some yellows?
Well, there's a few guys here that I run with. I got a couple of teammates at my, at Burnt Screwdrivers Racing Team, Greg and Mark and John, and a few of Ken and several of those guys, Kelly and Palmer, and list goes on. There's more. But anyway, we try to run together when we can. And I was working with them at times and pushing, and they were pushing me. And it was just riding, I was just riding, hoping to have a good finish. I've had a really good week at RTG this week, so I was expecting tonight to be awful. So, but yeah, I just kind of rode around and just let things happen. I started off in 6th and made a move in the outside early and pretty much went to the back on the 3rd line. So that didn't work. And then kind of worked my way back up with making some moves here and there and working with some friends and stuff. And there's a lot of guys out there I trust, and I feel like there's a few out there that trust to be around me. So just kind of worked my way up, and things just kind of fell into place. I'd love to say I worked some magic out there, but things just kind of, I picked the right spot, which I've always tell myself I don't do that often. But tonight it seems like I picked the right spot a few times.
On super speedway racing, we call it right place, right time. You did that exactly to perfection, able to pick up the victory here tonight, and able to do a little bit of celebrating down near the entrance pit road. We saw you park it right next to that Brian Freeman decal. For the folks that are watching at home, they're seeing that little tribute there. Can you give a little explanation to them of the significance of that decal?
Yeah, absolutely. Be glad to. Thank you for bringing that up and noticing that. Brian Freeman passed away quite a few years ago. He was an original member of Burnt Screwdrivers Racing back when we were together in the early 2000s with this game. And then many of us just kind of hung it up, except for, I think, Chris Elliott and a couple of guys who race over at Talladega Nights. He raced here for quite a while, but original member of Burnt Screwdrivers Racing. His brother Todd Freeman is out and about somewhere, and he doesn't really race anymore with this. But when I got with John Godfrey to build this track, I've always wanted to see Talladega at night because I'm from Alabama, and always my family used to always go to Talladega. And so when we put this track together, I wanted to make sure and have a memorial decal for Brian in the infield and infield grass there. And John did it. Looks beautiful. And dedicate this win to Todd and Brian and the Freeman family because he was a good guy. Miss him, met him. We used to go and have our team banquets and stuff. So I've met the guy. It's not just somebody I got to talk to over the air, but you know how it is when you meet these guys that you race with for years. So he was a good guy, original member, like I said, and miss him a lot.
Well, pretty cool to be able to see you pick up that victory, be able to do that tribute. If I'm not mistaken, too, I believe this is your first win at this racetrack. So what a cool way to do it here in the season opener of season 60. Ronnie, before we let you get back to your celebrating, we're going to hand the mic over to you for some victory lane thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Well, Seth, Anthony, thank you guys for doing what you guys do. I can't wait to go back and watch this thing. I hope it's feel like it was exciting because I know it was exciting behind the wheel. Obviously, I want to thank FRN and then Jason Scheck and 260 Motorsports for sponsoring this year. Looking forward to this whole season. Appreciate him stepping on board and doing that. Bones and Prime, the owners here at RTG, Josh, Tim, and Wiley, the admins of this series, and all the admins and drivers at Rolling Thunder. Thank Black Rifle Coffee, Rockin' Booth, Thrustmaster, Rozzy, Habana Brisa. This Chevrolet Silverado was fast tonight. My dad, if he's watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Again, thank you guys. Looking forward to this. It's going to be a great year. I can feel it.
Already starting out a great year for Rodney Sullins. Takes the checkered flag here tonight in race number 1. Automatic locked in spot into the season 60 Talladega Challenge playoffs. Congratulations on the job well done. Hopefully we see you get a couple more wins here during this regular season as you get yourself eyed towards the postseason.
I hope so too. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Rodney Sullins picking
User
up
was
the
moved out of
checkered
your
flag
channel.
here tonight. I know the 50th is the silver anniversary. I don't know what the 60th is. I know that the by tens they have a certain uh gemstone, I think, or something like that, or a precious metal for the anniversary. But as we mentioned at the top of the show, 20 years here for Rolling Thunder Gaming on the 2003 sim, 60 seasons. And that's not just 60 seasons of the Tally Challenge. That is 60 seasons of all many different series. Bare Bones Racing Series, Aero 88 Series, Speed Freaks, you know, weekly series. I think they run 6 out of the 7 nights of the week. I mean, this is a huge effort that's put forth by multiple admins, multiple team members, and when you think about the fact that they've done it now for going on to 60 seasons, it's an incredible feat.
Absolutely. It's incredible to think that this sim has been around for that long too. Coming out in 2000, what, 2003, 2000,
Yeah.
end of 2002, into
Yep.
2003. So, a group of guys like this, it just, they've found their niche and they've been able to make this niche something bigger than what I think even the developers of the sim even imagined it would be. To think that there would be these people this committed to the game, I really wouldn't call it a game, this committed to the sim 20 years later is incredible. And of course, the developers later on made iRacing, but this is an amazing group of people, fantastic drivers that just weeknight after weeknight dedicate their life to driving, or maybe not their whole life, but dedicating a big portion of their evenings to this to driving to racing, and they do a fantastic job of it. I mean, we saw so much hard racing but clean racing. You can tell that they've been around this sim for so long that they're able to, tweak it and be able to get their setups perfectly in order to drive around this racetrack, and that's something you just don't see very much of now. I mean, we have such a huge variety of different platforms to race on, but they found theirs and they've gone at it for 60 seasons, 20 plus years. And it's fantastic. And I can't wait to see. I know that they're going to stick around until the very end. We might very well see them even 20 more years into the future,
Mm.
still racing here, still just as fantastic, still just as professional, and still just as mind blowing to see so much good racing on this platform.
Yeah, and obviously the racing skill is a big part of it, but I've had the privilege the last couple of seasons now to be able to run some of the series with these guys, and the camaraderie level is something I think that keeps them coming back as well. You've got the professionalism on the track, but you've got the fun but professional camaraderie that takes place as well every night in the team speak. All right, so I'm gonna kind of throw a question out to you here from a driver's mentality. We already mentioned it coming into tonight, kind of the devil may care attitude that maybe most of these drivers had of bring home the trophy or bring home the steering wheel. There's 9 regular season races, 8 more left to go. Next week, we go to Talladega for the first time this season. We know what Rodney Sullivan's strategy is now. He's already got himself locked into the playoffs. But does the strategy change now heading into the second race of the season? Or since we're still early on, do some of those drivers still have kind of that aggressive mentality of got to go out there, do everything I possibly can to get that early championship berth?
I don't think that the sense of urgency might set in until we get to maybe race 4, because at this stage, still, like the first race, obviously, you're going to come back and you've had a pretty significant break. You're going to go back into it, maybe a little bit more aggressive than normal. We saw that tonight, but they were able to keep it clean. I think, though, that once we hit race 4 again is when we're going to see kind of the sense of urgency, because right now it's like, okay, race 2, I've got time. Race 3, I've got time. Race 4, I'm starting to get a little less time before the end of the season. By race 5 and 6, I think we're going to see the energy kind of ramp up a little bit, because now we're running out of opportunities to get into the playoffs. By the time we get to 7, 8, and 9, I think that's when we're going to see drivers making, the last ditch effort moves, like especially ones that haven't made those moves prior. Now, that's not to say that drivers might go into this the second and third race with that same mentality. If I got to run every race like it's the last race, because you just never know what the season will happen for you. And a lot of super speedway racing is stuff that you can't control. Like, for example, the leader for the majority of this race, Wesley, was caught out leading the race when a yellow flag came out for 2 drivers spinning onto the pit lane during, a green flag pit stop cycle. That effectively lost him the race to Joe DeSpirito, who then inherited the lead, and we just never saw the 88 back up inside of the top 5 after that. He fell back almost. He fell outside of the top 10 after that. So it's a dice roll sometimes, and you have to be at some level thinking that I may not have another chance, so I need to go out and do this right now. Other drivers may not have that mentality, so it's going to be a little mixed bag for the first 5 or so races. But like I said, as soon as that second half of the regular season hits, all that kind of goes out the window and everybody's in desperation mode.
Will be very interesting to see how the events of tonight carry over to race number 2, first race of the season at Talladega next Thursday night. We'll be here to cover it for you with the green flag flying at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Congratulations once again to Rodney Sullivan on the win. Anthony, great to have you in the booth here tonight for this season opener. Appreciate having you.
It was super fun. I haven't been in the booth in a while, and it's so nice to be back here. And I hope I get to do this more often. I don't know what my personal schedule is, but if I can, I definitely would like to be back. It's so fun calling races with you.
Absolutely. Thanks to everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight, keeping us company in the chat. We may have invented a new beverage or a
Oh,
new
Lord.
ice cream or something. I don't know. I don't know if you can call us inventors, dreamers, maybe. But
Dreamers.
it was a lot of fun having that little bit of back and forth in the chat. Appreciate everybody that tuned in, and we hope to see you next Thursday night. For Anthony McCurry, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series presented by 260 Motorsports here on FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout